Hey, it's Zax from Ready Check Pull, and I'm here to tell you about what's going on with Balance Druid in Shadowlands. I'll go over the biggest changes from BFA, and then let you know how I think the spec is going to play out overall. Balance actually got some big changes. It's still got all the same recognizable abilities, but the main changes are the new Starfall and the new Eclipse system, which I'll explain in a second. The playstyle is actually most similar to how it was in Mists of Pandaria, if you can remember that far back. So the most exciting change, it's the moment all boomkins have been waiting for, Starfall is actually good again. It's back to an older design where it's a buff on your character instead of a ground targeted ability, so you can't stack multiple Starfalls, but the damage of it has been buffed by such a crazy amount that it doesn't really matter. So much so that without talents, it's already worth using on 2 targets. The cost of it is so high that the gameplay is already more about maintaining the buff as much as possible rather than spamming it. So you can kind of think of it as an 8-second super dot that's applied to anything within 40 yards of you. And by some blizzard miracle, it actually doesn't pull random mobs you don't want. Thank the Lord. It also extends all your Moonfires and Sunfires, so its AoE value is just ridiculous. Oh, and I almost forgot, it doesn't even have an AoE target cap right now. Yeah, this version of Starfall gets a big 10 out of 10 from me. Another interesting change is that the empowerment system has been scrapped, and the core gameplay has gone back to an Eclipse system. So instead of always being in one state, just alternating empowered abilities, you actually shift back and forth between 2 different states, or eclipses. For example, you'll cast 3 Wraths to activate Lunar Eclipse, which buffs your lunar abilities for a few seconds. And after that eclipse ends, you'll cast 3 Starfires to activate Solar Eclipse, buffing your solar abilities for a few seconds. And back and forth. I think this makes the rotation feel a bit more dynamic, and offers a bit of a higher skill cap in maximizing your damage, which I've been enjoying a lot. You somewhat get to choose when you start an eclipse, and now you can choose to extend an eclipse that you want to stay in by casting Star Surge. I'm a huge fan of this new system, but I can understand how it won't appeal to everyone's preferences. To go along with the new eclipse system, Balance's Mastery got redesigned too. Instead of just buffing your main abilities at all times, it now buffs the damage increase granted by each eclipse. So this of course further encourages you to maximize the eclipses themselves. The most interesting part of this change to me is that astral damage is buffed by both eclipses, so that includes your big spenders, Star Surge, and Starfall. They get buffed when either eclipse is active, but they get double buffed when both eclipses are active during your 3-minute cooldown. So you can end up with just absolutely massive Star Surges and Starfalls. Gotta love it. The last significant changes are to Balance's utility toolkit as a whole. It got Stampeding Roar as a new baseline ability, which will be crazy useful for certain situations. Typhoon is now baseline instead of being a talent, which makes a lot of sense. Ursol's Vortex got added to the Restoration Affinity talent, so you can have the always enjoyable Ursol's Typhoon combo. And now Cyclone is also a baseline ability. All these changes are relatively small on their own, but they add up to making Balance's utility toolkit absolutely massive. So with the new Eclipse system, the baseline single target gameplay boils down to maintaining your Moonfire and Sunfire dots, casting Wrath or Starfire based on which eclipse you're in or are trying to activate, and spending your Astral Power on Star Surge during an eclipse, preferably a solar eclipse. The baseline AoE gameplay only changes a little bit, instead just spending your Astral Power on maintaining the Starfall buff as much as possible. Balance is looking to be in a very good position this expansion. Its main weakness in BFA was its lack of AoE, and now that's not a problem at all. It already had a pretty crazy utility toolkit too for Mythic Plus, and now that toolkit is even crazier. It even feels like it has a good option to deal with every affix in Mythic Plus. Oh, and I didn't even mention how the Stellar Drift talent makes it so you can cast while moving almost the entire time in an AoE situation. And being a multi-dot class, it's almost guaranteed to be top tier on a few raid fights every raid. The only thing I can even think of to change is to make Wrath do a little bit of AoE damage during a solar eclipse. I'd want this changed because right now, at a certain number of targets, you're actually better off just spamming unbuffed Starfires during a solar eclipse. And that just doesn't feel quite right to me. But I'm not really that bothered by it ultimately. I'm excited to see what the Covenant abilities, Legendaries, and Soulbinds bring to the table for Balance. Either way, this one is definitely on my list of potential mains for Shadowlands. If you like this little review, give us a like and feel free to check out any of the other specs I cover. And let me know in the comments or in our Discord which specs you want to know about next. Also, if you like what we do here, please consider supporting us on Patreon. It helps more than you know. Links to everything in the description. See you next time.